Okay, thank you all for coming tonight. On behalf of the League of Women Voters of Deschutes County, welcome to the forum for candidates for the Bend LaPine School Board. I'm Peyton Thomas with Central Oregon Daily News. Thank you to the candidates who are participating tonight. We have Theo and Ross. Keena will be joining us in just a few minutes. Candidates in this race, Ross Tomlin and Theo Wilhelm for Zone 6, and Keena Chadwick and Justin Van Patten for Zone 7. Justin Van Patten is unable to be here this evening. The responsibilities for school board include approving the budget and curriculum, hiring and evaluating the superintendent, and adopting policy. Candidates will have 1 minute each for opening remarks and then 1.5 minutes to answer each question. Questions will be submitted by the public and screened by the League of Women Voters. We also have questions tonight from students within the Bend LaPine School District. Each candidate will also have 2 minutes for closing remarks to close out the forum. Please hold your applause and refrain from comments during the forum. Also, please mute your cell phones. All right, for opening statements, we have randomly selected the order. The order of who answers each question first will be rotated throughout the forum, and then we'll work Keena in once she gets here. Let's start with Ross.
Once they get there.
Huh?
Once they get here.
Once they get here, correct. And let's start with Ross for your opening statement.
Thank you, Peyton. All right, well, my name is Ross Tomlin. I am running for the Bend LaPine School Board, mainly because I am passionate about education and its importance to our country and our world. Most of my career, and that spans over 43 years, has been in education. I love seeing students excited about learning and seeing how it changes their lives for the better. I am a retired college president who also taught full-time in the classroom for over 20 years. And I continue to teach, now that I'm retired, part-time at COCC. I want to continue using my skills and experience to have a positive impact on education in this area and in the state. I've been on the Bend LaPine School Board now since December, and I was appointed to an empty position by unanimous vote of the current board. I'm getting out into the school district, meeting students, faculty, and staff, and really starting to learn a lot about the key issues impacting the district. Tonight I will share my priorities and experience that would make me an effective board member. Thank you.
Great. Theo?
Hi, my name is Theo Wilhelm, running for school board, Bend LaPine School Board Zone 6, and I want to start by thanking the League of Women Voters for holding this forum. We have something in common. We believe in empowerment through education, and that's what I believe for 26 years as a K-12 classroom teacher, a career that was not only here in Bend, Oregon, but that has been seasoned by teaching on 4 different continents. I strongly believe that the Bend LaPine School District is doing everything they can to improve our current struggles, but I think we can do better. And that's why I stepped up and ran for this position, is I undoubtedly believe that something is missing from our school board, and that is the voice of a career K-12 classroom teacher. Apart from being a classroom teacher, I've run programs, I've written curriculums, I've written standards, I've managed budgets, but I think my biggest asset that I bring to the collaborative diversity of the board is exactly what I'm saying. I know exactly what it's like when directives come from the superintendent or from the board, and you have to make them happen in your classroom. I want to inform that board that way so that we can make sure our decisions are going to be the optimal decisions for the students of Bend LaPine schools.
Theo, thank you. Keena, we are in opening statements. Great to see you here. You have 1 minute.
Thank you. Thank you for creating. I just want to thank the League of Women Voters for creating this space and providing an opportunity for folks in the community to get to know us better. I was appointed to the school board back in Q4 of 2022, I think it was. And then in May of 2023, I ran and was elected. And I will say that there were 3 other candidates who ran alongside me, and I don't think that that's a coincidence. I am the only queer brown person on the board, and I'm here to stay on the board. Thank you.
All right, great. The first 2 questions tonight will be questions submitted by students within the Bend LaPine School District. First, do you believe the current district plan to defend DEI and trans advocacy programs against the federal government is adequate, or what would you change? And Kina, will go right back to you.
Sure. Do I think it's adequate? No. Do I think it's a step in the right direction? Yes. I want to make sure that it is crystal clear that public education is for every student, the whole student. So when you show up to schools, as many students do, they show up in fractions, right? And the goal is for students to show up completely, fully who they are. So I'm gonna just put a little nugget here that I definitely, we initially did the resolution for undocumented students and staff and families. And that was when I was able to kind of exercise my power and say, okay, we need to do this for trans and gender expansive folks too. And then the resolution shortly came after that.
Great, Ross?
Well, I think I agree with Kina that, the plan may not be totally adequate, but it is a move in the right direction. I fully support our DEI program at the district and the right of these students to be learning in the classrooms. I think we need to focus on the underserved students more, and that'll be one of my big priorities on the board to continue. And I will say that the entire board is fully in favor of this, and we're strongly supportive of these efforts, and we will continue to be so. And I think we'll be a voice that'll be very consistent to push for those things.
Thank you. And Theo?
I agree with what both Ross and Kina have said. And I certainly feel that every student has a right to see themselves in their education. I think we have a ways to go with that. But in the current climate, I completely agree with the district's stance in not cowering to the federal government and backing down from our DEI policies. And I even want to avoid saying DEI. I want to say diversity, equity, and inclusion. Because I don't see why people would disagree with that. We're empowered by diversity. We're stronger by being equitable and including all. And every child needs to come to school and feel as though they're valued and they can contribute to our society. I don't want to worry about what the child is going to decide later or what they thought in the past. When a child walks into the school, they should be valued, they should be celebrated, and they should be empowered to be a part of our glorious society. And I will always stand for that. Thank you.
Moving on to the next question, also submitted by a student within the district. What ideas do you have to raise attendance within Ben LaPine schools? And Theo, will go back to you to start.
This is a great question. I think we need them to want to be there. And I know that sounds strange, but if I was a musician and I played a set of music and people stopped showing up, I wasn't going to keep playing the same set of music. I think we need to make our classrooms more exciting. I think we need to put the iPads down. I think we need to build communities within our schools, within our buildings, within our district, and we need to make sure that kids are having a reason to be excited about school. I always did it as a classroom teacher. I thought differently. I thought outside the box. I got them out of their chairs. I got them working together. I had them in homogeneous and heterogeneous groupings. So every day was exciting and new. Sometimes I even changed the seating chart every day so they came in with a sense of wonder. Wonder is what sends kids to school. I wonder what I can learn today. I wonder what friends I'll make today. I wonder how I'll be celebrated today. We need to bring that joy back into education. It's not just about metrics and test scores and youth surveys. It's about joy and celebrating the fact that you're the future of our country and we want to support you.
Ross?
Well, I think getting students to want to come to school is a challenge. It is an issue in our district, as it is in many of the districts. This is in part fallout from COVID, but there are other issues to consider. I agree with Theo. We've got to engage students more. One of the things that the district is doing, I think, very well right now is getting curriculum passed that is going to be very engaging, having students work and develop their learning without having the teacher guide everything. So instead of having a sage on the stage, as they say, it'll be a guide by the side. And I think that is the preferable way to get students excited about learning. And that is something that I'm seeing in the district more, and I think that's going to help with that issue.
And Kina.
Yeah, I would say in terms of raising attendance, having curriculum that is engaging, having curriculum that is relevant to students, like how is what they're learning in our schools going to be applied in their daily lives, right? And I think, another piece, Realms does a great job with this with expeditious learning. So we're talking about like, if we're thinking about art history, we're bringing in a local artist and we're talking to historians, right? What does that really look like? It's not just a page in a book. Another way that we're making rounds is CTE, right? That is a great model. Where it's not just about the school district, it's about our entire community. So, seeing internships directly from high school, whether that's welding, forestry, it's not just up to the school district, it's up to parents and it's up to other community members as well. And I will say that the district is currently undergoing evaluating new curriculum, and students also participate in that evaluation.
Moving on now to our general questions. First, what is your own experience within public education? We'll start with Ross.
All right. Well, as I mentioned in my opening statement, I have over 43 years of experience in education. It's in higher education. I taught forestry at the college level for over 20 years, so I'm passionate about career technical education, and I see that as a way for so many students that are not particularly interested in going to a university for a degree to get a good paying job and career. So I did that for over 20 years before I became a college administrator, worked my way up, and I retired as president of Tillamook Bay Community College over on the coast. As part of my job as president, I was also on the Northwest Regional ESD Board, which is the largest ESD education service district in the state, in northwestern Oregon, where I worked for 7 years, 1 year as chair, was able to hire a new superintendent and work to really do some interesting things to help improve that district. We worked with 20 school districts in northwestern Oregon. Also, as president, I had the opportunity to work with superintendents in all the districts within my college district, and we worked very hard, meeting every month, to try and improve the transition of students from high school to college, and work to try and get more articulation of courses in the high school level so that students could gain a lot of college credit before they went to college. So those are some of the things that I was able to accomplish.
Theo.
Half of my career has been spent in public education, the other half I worked in international schools. I think it's worth noting that I never thought I would be a teacher. I was helping a friend set up her classroom. I learned there's a teacher shortage in California, and I said, I can do that. And a week later, I was standing in front of 34 students with 0 educational training. I've since gone on to get all my letters after my name, master's degree, and my administrative licensure, and I found a love for education in public schools. 7 of those years have been spent here in Central Oregon. I taught at Cascade Middle School. I also spent a semester substituting where I've done everything. I worked in K through 5, I was in special education classrooms, I was in life skills classrooms. I was even an attendance secretary for a week because I wanted to know every aspect of our schools and how it impacts our children. So my history of public education has been an extremely diverse one. I've taught every single core subject. I've coached 5 different sports, boys and girls. I've supported numerous clubs, helped kids with numerous activities. I've found a real love and passion for what public education offers every student. It should offer every student. And if it's happened in the classroom in K through 12, chances are I've done it.
And Kina.
Yeah, I want to start with saying that my mother actually immigrated to the United States in the 70s, and she earned her GED while raising 3 kids and working multiple jobs, while my father often was stationed in different countries. He was in the Air Force for over 20 years, and so that's kind of yeah, the tenacity and grit that I fall back on. Personally, I'm a product of public education. Both of my children attend Ben LaPine schools. My siblings and I are also first generation college graduates, and I cannot speak more highly about the government program Upward Bound, which takes low income first generation students and kind of, I mean, really they offer tutoring, and in the summers we also spend our times living in different schools. They also take you to college visits. Again, as first generation college grads, my parents wouldn't know where to start. But that was the first time that I saw teachers who looked like me. So I had teachers who went to Yale, Harvard, and Brown who saw something in me. And that is something that I'm hoping to kind of transcend to like a lot of students in our community.
Next question, in anticipation of reductions in federal funding, how are you going to ensure that services and service levels remain in place throughout the district? Keena, right back to you.
Yeah, so there's these 2 words that no one likes to talk about that has a massive impact on our operations as a school district. They are unfunded mandates, okay? No one ever talks about unfunded mandates. They talk about how, we don't have enough money to do this or do that or to fund this or fund that. And for all y'all news people out there, I would encourage you to look, like, there's your story right there. See how much the district is spending on unfunded mandates. But in the case, we have a wonderful new-ish CFO. And, I think I mentioned this a little bit earlier. We don't want federal dollars that are going to make us pick and choose students, right? Well, our CFO and his team also has about at least seven contingency budgets, depending on, what shoe is gonna drop. So I think it's thinking creatively. I will say that the last thing that this district does to create more funding is to let go of people. Because, one of our biggest goals is to be an employer of choice.
Theo.
Can you repeat the question for me, please?
Sure. In anticipation of reductions in federal funding, how are you going to ensure service levels throughout the district remain in place?
Absolutely. I think I agree with Keena and everything she said, and I agree that.
Oh, I'm sorry, my pronouns are, actually, I'm not
I'm
sorry.
sorry,
My pronouns are they, them.
I'm sorry. I agree with everything they said. And I think that we have to really realize that cuts are coming if we're going to resist the federal mandates and suggesting getting rid of DEI. And I think, as we often said in teaching, the answer's in the room. We really need to have a human capital strategy, making the most of what we have already. Because services to students are not the thing that can be cut. We need to be supporting students on all levels. So where can we get the most out of the human power that we have so that we can be maximizing our production, even despite the fact that we have cuts in our budget? I think there are ways where we can stretch a dollar more, or we can realize inefficiencies, or realizing where we're not getting the return on spending that we need to. So that's going to take a specialized audit of our budget. I was at the school board meeting where they talked about their 7 different budgets that they have. So I'm really proud of the school district and the work that they're doing in being ready for these challenges. But I think student services are the last thing to be on the table, and there's other ways we can strategically use the funds we have.
And Ross.
So in the Ben LaPine School District budget, 6% of the budget is from federal funds. So it's not a huge amount, but it's significant as far as the impact it would have if we lose that money. Part of the problem we have in the biennium year, which is what we're in, is that we won't even know what we're getting from the state until probably June. We're having to build the budget, and as a board, we will have to pass that budget in June. So the 7 budgets that Keena was talking about is important because we don't know what we're gonna be getting. We don't know if we're losing money from the federal government, we don't know what we're getting from the state, so there's a lot of unknowns. 85% of our budget is based on personnel. So there's not a lot of money left over to put into certain programs, et cetera. I think from my priorities, we need to really work on achievement gaps, and we need to work on serving the underserved students. And so looking at where can we put resources that will help to bring those achievement gaps down, close them, and where we can bring the achievements up to from the underserved students, that's where we need to put those resources that are gonna be very limited for the next few years for sure.
Now to our next question. Do you believe that cell phone and iPad policies are working at all grade levels within the district? And Keena, we'll start with you again.
Yeah, no. I mean, the answer is no. Frankly, I have a kindergartner who uses iPads in class. And do I agree with that? No. Are there other parents who agree with that? Probably. And I also, I will say personally, again, this is personally, my daughter who is in middle school, she does not have an iPad. She has an issued iPad from the school. Otherwise, she has a watch, so I know where she is, right? There's a reason why Steve Jobs and Bill Gates' children did not have computers when they were creating them. And I think honestly, like, and Ross alluded to this, right? We're still not over COVID, right? And the expectation is that our students and our staff, our teachers, that the expectation is that they should be on track. They should exceed that level, right? And in reality is that we still need to get through this. I mean, honestly, my personal belief is that we need to slow down for a minute. Like, there's a reason why we're seeing so many behavioral issues in classes.
And moving back down the line here, we'll go to Ross.
Well, I agree with Keena. Again, the policies probably aren't working as well as they should, but this is a very complex problem. This is something that all school districts are going through. I believe there's a tremendous role for technology in the classroom, but it's got to be used in a certain way so that it enhances learning. It can do that, but it can also detract from learning. So it's how we use technology that really matters. Cell phones, I think, for the most part, are distractions, and so we have to find a way in order for parents to feel comfortable that they can know how their kids are doing and be able to communicate if they need to, but at the same time not have those things detract from learning in the classroom. So it's a very complex problem. It's something that teachers really struggle with, and I think as a board we need to listen to the students, we need to listen to the teachers, and try and come up with the best answer we can that will balance the need for technology and the use of it, and also be able to focus on learning and keep students engaged in the classroom.
And Theo.
Thank you. Much like Keena said, my own children, my youngest son is currently in high school here in Ben LaPine. I had them wait till 8, that's what we said. They didn't get cell phones until they were in 8th grade. There's a remarkable correlation between the introduction and abundance of cell phones in our society and social media and the rising rates of anxiety and depression in our students. I love kids too much to say, well, this is inconvenient to be unpopular and say, put that away. We need to put them away. And I believe that iPads are a wonderful tool for education. I use them quite a bit in my class, but they're a tool. And I've been in the classrooms and I've seen where they end up being something that can be fallen back on when things get difficult. Just go ahead and get in your iPad and work on your math program or whatnot. I think we need to be monitoring their usage at all levels. When an iPad was thrust into my youngest hand in 3rd grade, I was upset and I asked for paper copies. I was that parent. That was unsustainable. We really didn't have a choice. So we're not gonna get rid of the iPads. I think we need to make sure at the younger grades, iPhones are not there. That's my strong belief. But I think we need to be monitoring how they're being used. I would be for some sort of way that we know that an elementary child can only have that iPad on for a certain amount of time in school, and then it shuts down. And to force the teachers as well to realize we can't be leaning on this tool too much. They're doing damage. And I think we have to keep that in mind.
Now let's stay within the topic of technology, which is another thing that people are increasingly interested in, teachers, parents, students. How do you feel that the district is addressing AI and the use of artificial intelligence within classrooms? And Theo, we'll go back to you.
One of my last professional developments was around AI. And I will confess, I shriveled. AI scares me. However, it's not going anywhere. And we're going to have to learn to embrace it and use it as the tool it is. And there are ways for students and teachers to use it as the tool it is. Because the reality is, I just used AI the other day as much as I don't like it. Every time you do a Google search, that's AI telling you your answer sometimes. So I realized that the district has made the logical choice that AI isn't something we can just say, don't use that. We can't touch that because it's prevalent in our society, and our schools need to reflect society, which is responsible use of AI. So I think that's what we need to be thinking about. Should we use AI or not? It's gonna happen. How do we do so responsibly?
Okay, Ross?
Well, the district is just now trying to grapple with that problem. The process that we have in the district is new policies come forward. We have a chance to look at them as board members. They have staff and faculty and students look at these policies as well. So it goes through quite a rigorous process. Just the last few months, we got a draft of an AI policy, and it needs some work, and we acknowledge that, and it's going back for some more work because it is a complex problem, and we're not sure how AI can be grappled with. But as Theo said, it's not going anywhere. We have to deal with it. We have to learn how can it be used in the classroom in a positive manner to enhance learning instead of taking the place of learning by letting the AI do the work for the students. And that is an issue that we haven't got the answers to that yet, but we're going to be working on that, and I have every confidence that in the district between the teachers, the students, and the administration, we'll figure it out in the best manner for our students.
And Kina?
Yeah, our world is changing in a way that we've never seen before, right? My former career, I worked at this organization, studying organization. I was in organizational development, and we helped supported massive organizations in digitizing their companies, right? And there is a benefit, and I think AI can be used in a smart way, right? So this is kind of my analogy to it. When you're cooking, are you gonna spend all this time like dicing up garlic, peeling each one, or are you gonna go to the store and are you gonna pick up that bottle of diced garlic that you're ready to use, right? So like we need to use it in a smarter way so that it can free up our teachers' time and our students' times in being able to being able to hone in on what's more important. Maybe things like social emotional learning. Maybe that would have an impact on bullying that happens in our schools. So again, I think our future is going to be like something we never imagined, and it's our responsibility to be using these new systems as tools.
Okay, to our next question. How can the school district and our community create a deep sense of belonging for students and families? And we'll start with Ross.
Well, that's part of the DEI process, right? Inclusion. I know the district is working very hard to develop methods and ways for students and teachers to work together so that people feel belonging. The district has a strategic plan, and that is one of the main goals of that strategic plan is to enhance the feeling of belonging and inclusion that students feel. Because we found that if students feel, and staff as well, if they feel safe, if they feel included and part of the group, then they will learn better, they will be more successful. And so I think that is wonderful that the district has that as a major goal, and they are working to develop processes and programs that will help enhance that for students.
Theo?
I admire that this is a goal for the district, but the truth is the Youth Truth Survey shows that kids in middle school and high school are struggling with a sense of belonging. So I'm growing impatient. I have a child in high school and I want him to have a greater sense of belonging. So we really have to start thinking in innovative ways of how we make sure everybody sees themselves in the school buildings, feels celebrated in the school buildings, feels respected in the school buildings. I think school districts, all of them that I've worked for, have done a great job of every once in a while putting down the drawbridge and saying, come on in and speak at public comment times, and you can watch our videos online, but I think we could do more for community outreach. This is a community problem where our schools are struggling. This isn't a teacher problem, student problem, superintendent problem. This is a problem for our whole community. That's why my slogan is, we can do better. And that requires all of us, but how do we let the public know what to do when they just have a little bit of time at a microphone at school board meetings? I think we could do better with communicating our vision, our practices, what we need from the community, getting businesses engaged. This is a community problem and it's time to engage the community even further. That's the only way we're gonna solve it.
Okay, and Keena?
Yeah, for me, I mean, I'm queer, I'm non-binary, I'm brown. Belonging is very important, right? It's something that I need to decide every day if I'm gonna step out of my home and deal with racism or homophobia today, right? So this is something that is truly personal. And I think the biggest piece is authenticity, right? When you're talking to someone, you know if they're being real with you or not. And kids are like, I mean, they've got like super hero powers, especially when it comes to authenticity. So, we had this conversation, I think it was at the last regular school board, where, the district partners with the county in our health education. So right now, our health education is going through a curriculum overview. And the question that I'm really getting, that I like to understand more is, especially during this new administration, there's a lot more of us who are not bullies, right? So why aren't there more students sticking up for other students who are being harassed? Or bullied. There's a straight up definition for that, right? But what is it? And so, my question that I had asked during that board meeting was, explain to me the continuum from like preschool to high school health ed. Like, we need to be teaching our students how to be empathic, how to be compassionate. We need to get back to humanity.
Thank you, Keena. Okay, what do you think are the education gaps or weaknesses within the school district currently? And Keena, will go right back to you.
Yeah, I would say, my biggest concern, and these next 4 years, I really want to champion early literacy among children. I've kind of started doing more of that every Wednesday. I'm at Bear Creek reading with first graders and kindergartners, having that one-on-one time that a lot of these students don't have at home. They're gonna get that from our schools, right? There's so much more that our schools offer, right? They offer, for some students, they offer regular meals that they can rely on. So early literacy, absenteeism, and again, having each child feel a sense of belonging.
Theo?
Will you repeat the question for me, please?
Yeah, sure. What do you think are the education gaps or weaknesses within the district currently?
I think the one I'm going to speak to specifically is what we often use as a metric is our scores in the NAEP proficiency test, where we're not doing very well at all. And I think what we really need to do is, I agree with some early literacy training. I think we also need to go ahead and really make sure that we are building those communities in our classrooms. And again, that requires maybe stepping away from those iPads a little bit more and slowing down, as Keena was smart enough to say, so we can build those communities. I used to spend the first 2 weeks of my classroom building community. Everybody would say, how are you gonna catch up? And we always surpassed everybody. So I think that's gonna make sure we have that inclusion, that belonging, the friendship. It's gonna start working on bringing down the rates of bullying. And I also think experiential learning. Whenever I could, I took the curriculum and applied it to the real world and showed kids, you can make a difference right now, let's do it. And so I think the fact that we have these gaps, kids aren't seeing that the learning is something that immediately is they can wield. This education is something I can use right now. And that can start at the youngest ages. Look at what this book can teach you. Look what you can now do. So we need to bring that excitement around education in the community that is around education that makes it so meaningful for all of us and close some of those proficiency gaps that we see that are so startling.
And Ross?
Well, if you look at the data that shows what our achievement gaps are in this district, and believe me, every school district in the country has achievement gaps. And so it's so important nowadays to look at those gaps. Where are they? Which students are significantly scoring lower and having a harder time learning? And in the Ben LaPine School District, I looked at the data just recently. It is people of color, it is students with disability, and it's people of poverty. And if you look at those three groups, they are significantly lower in scores across the board. And so that's where, if you're going to close achievement gaps, you have to first identify the groups that are struggling, and then you've got to put the resources into helping those students. And that's what the district is starting to really look at, and the superintendent is committed on this, that those resources will be starting to focus by hiring more staff, more assistants, different resources, curriculum that will address those particular populations and try and get those gaps closed, because that's a huge issue everywhere, but that's something we can work on here in Ben LaPine.
Next question, are there any specific changes you want the district to make, and how will you support these changes? Keena, we'll start with you.
Do I have any changes? I think there's enough changes, honestly, and I think our teachers will agree with that. You know, this district, like I said, we want to be innovative. We want to do things smarter and better, and sometimes that's at the expense of teachers. Like I said earlier, slowing down. I think slowing down allows us to be grounded and to really assess what is the picture of our district. So at this time, I would say let's focus on what we're working on right now, because too many changes is not gonna. Again, I'm just going back to my previous career in organizational development. Right, folks take a survey, Sutter, Honda, Toyota, Schwab. We would design all their employee experience surveys, and then you get folks who are like, all right, let's do these 5 things that are gonna lead to changes in our environment. Well, 5 is too much. If you're spreading yourself too thin, you're not gonna do much very well. So I would say let's focus on what we're working on right now.
Ross?
Well, I've been involved with districts all across the country, and I will say that as I got on the board in December and have started to learn more about what is going on in the district, I am really impressed. I believe the superintendent has a great leadership team. They have some excellent teachers in the district, people with a lot of passion for students to learn. And so, is there work to do? Absolutely. But they are addressing the key things, I believe, right now. Again, going back to the strategic plan, some of the key issues are looking at curriculum. They are passing consistent curriculum. One of the issues is that some of our science and our math and our even reading curriculum has been different across the board. So different schools have different approaches and teach different things. And that, I think, adds to the underserved students and the populations that are struggling. They get shortchanged in many ways. So now we're addressing that by passing some really innovative, creative curriculum that'll be consistent across the board. So all students in the district will have the same ability to learn the same type of standards and show that they have those skills. So I think those are ways that we can really help address some of these concerns. So I agree with Keena that, you know, we just need to focus on the things that we're working on now, and you'll see some tremendous change. This administration really has not been in place all that long, and they're just getting started putting these things in place, and I'm impressed.
And Theo.
I have a number of changes as far as philosophically, but the one I'd like to speak to the most is I would really like to see the school come up with a very clear, and I know they're working on it, but I want to see it start happening, where we start consistently and with fidelity across our schools deal with classroom interruptions and behaviors. I know, I just watched it in my last positions as teachers are struggling. Please help me with this. And it's hard to execute a plan that is crystal clear to students that deals with those. And we need a really clear expectation of what student behavior should be like. And when a student is infringing upon the rights of another student's opportunity to learn, then we need to be dealing with that in a very transparent way that is clear to all the members of the community. I also believe in empowering teachers more. Allowing teachers to really have more time to get in their professional learning communities, crunch data, look at diagnostic testing, formative testing, summative testing, and working collaboratively. We gotta guard that time for teachers, but also have expectations. I've been in those meetings, and sometimes we don't use the time to the fullest of our ability. So I'd like to ask admin to be making sure that their teachers are maximizing the time that they're given, so we offer the best services to every single child in our schools.
Now, how would you ensure school safety? Theo, right back to you.
The unfortunate thing is we can't ensure anything, right? We know that things can happen, but I think we've done a great job with our systems of making sure that people don't enter schools who shouldn't be entering schools. But I think when we look at school safety, we often think of those big dramatic events, but I think some of the worst damage that is being done is the bullying in the hallways, the child that has continuously had behavior issues and intimidates other kids. I think safety is about that sense of belonging, and everybody should feel like they belong. So school safety, of course, we want to make sure that violent people stay out of our school or sex offenders stay out of our school, and we've done a great job, and we just saw Superintendent Cook speak about that on the news. But I also think about those little things. Teachers like to say death by a million paper cuts. Our students are getting paper cuts all day long, and we need to make sure they're safe on the most basic level, that they can go to school, enjoy their classmates, and learn without threats of being bullied, harassed, or making feel like they don't belong.
And Ross, same question to you. How would you ensure school safety?
Well, there's a myriad of things you have to deal with. Bullying certainly is a big issue, and I know the data is showing that the amount of bullying across the district is reducing. That's a good sign. But you have to have programs in place to really work on that. We have school resource officers in all the schools. I'm one that does not necessarily want to see law enforcement have to be in our schools, but unfortunately in today's environment, having people in law enforcement in the schools that are there consistently, the students get to know them, to respect them. It's more of a relationship thing. I think that's a positive, and it seems to be working pretty well in our district here. So that adds to the safety feature and makes both staff and students feel more safe. But we have to continue to work on ways in order for students to feel belonged and feel like they are safe in the classroom.
Finally, Keena, how would you ensure school safety?
Yeah, so I think it was last week when I met with several 8th graders at Cascade Middle School, and they had some questions about the different CAP projects that they're working on. And one of the questions, or one of the projects that a couple of students are working on was school safety. And they asked me this question, and you know, I'm gonna go back to, it's all about relationships, right? We know we've had some scares in our district, and the thing that deterred something horrific from happening was positive relationships with students and staff, people who work in those buildings. And my response to the students at Cascade Middle School, though, was specifically relationships at home, families, right? So your guns should be locked up, right? You should have that relationship with your child, or if you're a caregiver, that automatically feeds into belonging, right? It feeds into confidence. It feeds into compassion and empathy. So before we even hit the doors, the school doors, we need to be talking about relationships at home. And I think the broader community of Ben can also be part of that, like Parks and Rec. Maybe they can share some of that funding that they have.
Okay. All right. Do you think the focus area schools have been successful? For example, El Comedo is a art-focused school, and Ross, we'll start with you.
Well, I like the concept. I believe that having these special programs at different schools allows to have a plethora of different ways students can learn and get into areas that they are excited about. I think one of the issues is transportation. I'm from LaPine, and one of the issues I think we have down there is that a lot of the students want to take career technical programs. There is a good set of career technical programs in LaPine, but not that many. It's impossible to offer all the programs at all the schools. But unfortunately, LaPine being 30 miles away, if a student wants to take a career technical program that, say, is at Ben High School, they have to get there on their own. And so it is an obstacle. And I think those are some things we need to work on so that students can have the opportunity to study the program they want to study, but be able to do so by being able to get there and not have it be an obstacle for them.
Can we make sure that alarm is off?
I know, forgive me here.
No problem, I appreciate it.
It's controlling me.
Okay, let's move on to Theo.
I think the focus schools, the concept of it is fantastic for students who have access to them. So I think it does bring up, much like Ross said, the question of equity and making sure that students can attend those schools. So I think the idea is fantastic, but making it be executed in a way that offers the same opportunities to every student needs a lot of work. And so I don't think we should get rid of the idea, but we need to certainly keep working on it.
And Keenan.
Yeah, like I said earlier, we're here to serve all students, and not everyone learns the same way. And if we have the opportunity, first of all, I just want to say, like, LaPine schools is pretty nice, right? Like, my daughter, she spent some time in public schools in Oakland, and I remember moving here, and I was just like, is this a private school? Like, what is going on here? And so getting back to, like, not everyone learns the same way, I think without focus schools, we'd be losing a lot more students when it comes to absenteeism. I think it also comes back to if every child, every person brings their gift to the world. And if you're able to hone in on that gift, I just came from an Oregon Health Authority conference, which is why I was late, sorry. But I just witnessed this fascinating keynote from this epistemology, apologist, who was talking about showing data with through pictures. Who's included in that data? When we're talking about census, like, who's creating those questions? And so anyways, he just kind of brought it back to, like, it's not always white papers from research that's gonna get the point across. And so if we're able to think of creative ways, and again, hone into that engagement, then I'm all about it.
Great, we'll now move on to our closing remarks. It's hard to believe we're already almost made it to 6:30. You each will have 2 minutes for your closing remarks, and we'll start with Ross.
Thank you, Peyton. Well, thanks again to the League of Women Voters for this opportunity to be here and talk about my qualifications for being on the Ben LaPine School Board. Our educational systems are facing serious challenges, as I'm sure you're all aware. I want to use my years of experience to help us navigate through those challenges to ensure that all students, especially the underserved, receive the support that they need to be successful and develop a love of learning that will carry them throughout their lives. My priorities include promoting hands-on learning and career technical programs, keeping students and staff safe so they can thrive, supporting standards-based instruction, which is being implemented in the district, and closing achievement gaps in all our schools. I very much enjoy working with the other board members to make progress on these priorities, and I'm learning so much every month that I go to the board meetings since December. I believe I have the skills and the experience needed to be an effective board member in the district, and I'm just demonstrating that currently. This includes developing and managing academic programs and curriculum for over 20 years in the classroom. I worked directly with superintendents over the last 10 years to help students transition from high school to college. I served on the ESD board for 7 years. I've managed many large, complex budgets in fiscally challenging times. I've negotiated contracts with classified and faculty unions, and I've written and edited many board policies, all duties of a board member. I would like to continue to make a positive difference for the students in this district, and will do so if I'm given the opportunity. I currently have 23 organization and individual endorsements, which I'm very proud of, and would love to also have your support for my candidacy. Some of my endorsements include a state senator, Tillamook County commissioner, 2 Bend city councilors, a COCC board member, and most of the current Ben LaPine School Board, Stand for Children, and several unions, including the faculty and the classified unions at the school district, as well as the Democratic Party of Oregon Stonewall Caucus. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Ross. Okay, Theo, 2 minutes for your closing remarks.
Thank you. I want to thank you all again for being here. I love education, and I don't want to walk away from it. Whereas I'm done being in the classroom, I still want to support the students of our community. I'm deeply respectful and impressed with the shared expertise in education that we see on the school board. And I do want to make clear, though, that we talk about the power of diversity and collaboration. We need diversity on the board by bringing the voice of a career classroom teacher on board. I think we have a lot of administrative prowess in spades. We have a lot of redundancy in that. But one thing I do know is there's a disconnect between the board and many of our teachers in our community, and they're frustrated, and I'm stepping up to fill that gap. Now, as you probably know, I'm running against Ross, but there's also a slate of 5 that are all working together. So that's really made this an uphill battle for me. And I don't have a long list of endorsements to offer you. But what I do have is my complete devotion to education and the people that make the major difference, the teachers. Every single day, whatever we decide as a board, they're the ones that decide or determine if it works or not. I'm here so they see themselves on the board. They know they're being represented on the board. And I could talk about a lot of positions that I held beyond being a teacher, but I want to just simply stay right there. I'm a teacher, and I will always be a teacher. And honestly, I think I have a few things that I could teach the board in making the decisions, so when those decisions are made, they have the most impact. I have lived through some of the decisions of past school boards here in Ben LaPine schools, and they didn't work. And we knew it. As teachers, we knew that. This isn't gonna work. This isn't gonna be okay. I'd like to help them save time in their decision-making process by hearing those voices at every single meeting, every single get-together that we have, so that we can do what's best for students. I love my students past, I love my students that I engage with now, and I'm looking towards the future. And that's why I'm staying in this fight for school board, because I know I can make a difference. You just gotta give me the chance. Thank you.
Finally, Kina, your 2 minutes for closing remarks.
Yeah, I think I mentioned earlier, the power, I guess the power and transparency of authenticity, right? And that's what you're gonna get when, as I continue serving another 4 years. I will continue to show up, I will continue to speak with 8th graders at Cascade Middle School, I will continue reading with 1st graders and kindergartners at Bear Creek. I will continue going to the GSA at Caldera or, checking in with students at Stonewall at Ben High. This is who I am. So what you see is what you're gonna get. I also want to share that, I was in, I was in a very similar seat as Theo a few years ago before I was endorsed. And there was a lot of assumptions and a lot of unknowns that I was not privy to. So I want to make it clear that everyone at the district is doing what they can to best serve our students. And there's a lot of information out there that folks just don't know about because they haven't been part of it. One thing I will say, you had asked a question earlier about what change would I want to see at the school board. One thing that this current school board has asked, and we are starting to see more of it, is when people come to present to us, we don't only want to hear from the level leaders, like who are those people who are in charge of all elementary schools or all middle schools or all high schools. We want to hear the teachers. We want teachers in the room, in the boardroom, telling us what's going on. In my paid job, we center youth, and it's community-led, it's youth-led, and so I would continue to, again, elevate youth and teachers. I have a great relationship with both unions, like Ross was saying, as far as endorsements go. Let me tell you something, endorsements equal values, right? So when we get endorsed by people, we are given a long list of questions so they understand our viewpoint. So endorsements aren't just endorsements.
I'm gonna have to cut you off. Thank you. That will wrap up tonight's forum. Thank you to the candidates for all 3 of you participating here tonight. Remember that your vote is your voice. Ballots will be mailed on April 30th. Make sure you get your ballots postmarked by Election Day, May 20th, so that your voice can be heard. The recording of the forum here tonight will be available on the League of Women Voters of Deschutes County website and on their YouTube page. For more information about all of these candidates, please check out vote411.org. Thank you to all of you for attending tonight.